Rick Snyder cut $1 billion from education.
$1 billion.
Now he claims he increased school funding?
Not in my classroom.
That's part of a political ad that has Governor Snyder's campaign fuming. They call it an outright lie and want TV stations to stop airing it. The ad repeats a charge we've heard from Democrats all year, accusing the governor of cutting education by $1 billion.
All right, but do the numbers add up? We're going to try to add them up. Joining us to debate this, Democratic State Rep Jeff Irwin from Ann Arbor and Republican State Rep Pete Lund from Macomb County.
Yeah, and also making his debut on Let It Rip Weekend is Steve Mitchell of Mitchell Research, who signed on as Fox 2's pollster and political analyst.
All right, so let me start with Jeff. Did the governor did he really cut $1 billion from the state education budget?
Well, he absolutely did. The governor's signature policy initiative has been this big $1.8 billion tax cut for corporations. And in order to pay for that, we all know he instituted the retirement tax, got rid of a good portion of the earned income tax credit, raised taxes on lower income people, middle class families lost their homestead exemption and their $600 per child deduction. And all of that money together, all those tax increases weren't enough to pay for that $1.8 billion tax cut. The rest of the money had to come out of education.
Well, you know, we've seen the fact, this has been such a point of contention. And fact checkers going on left and right, they said, you know, you look at some people say, well, no, he might have cut it, but he also put the money back in, Governor Snyder.
Well, you know, look at what the Detroit Free Press has analyzed this, and they call it the big persistent lie. Because the truth of the matter is, Jennifer Granholm's last budget, K-12, was $10.8 billion. The last one under Rick Snyder, the one we're currently under, was about $12 billion. I'm sorry, you use any math, that's an increase of $1.2 billion. It's just not a cut. All the other things they want to talk about, fine, talk about them, but you're lying about education K-12. It was, I believe it was the vice president in a debate who said, you're allowed to have your own opinions in politics, but you're not allowed your own facts.
But Pete, part of that, though, was part that were paid for pensions, that were paid for non-classroom
for education pensions, for teachers' pensions. Okay, so are you going to fault the governor for shoring up teachers' pensions?
Well, we lost $500 million in federal money, too, so it's got to be made up somewhere, though.
But the state is spending more money. You want to have these debates, if you want to put asterisks on those ads and you want to put a footnote, put it on there. But it states a clear fact that the governor cut $1 billion. That's just an outright lie.
And Steve, that we've seen...
These Republicans don't want to cut the ad off because it's a lie. They want to cut it off because it's effective. It's a powerful ad. You've got these teachers talking about their personal experience in the classroom, class sizes going up, resources to the classroom going down.
The $1 billion cut is a lie.
It's not a lie. You can parse your words as carefully as you want, but the bottom line is when the revenue was cut to the aid fund by $750 million with the elimination of the MBT, and when higher ed and community college started reaching into K-12's pocket, that's over $1 billion a year in revenue.
The first person who reached into the K fund for higher ed was Governor Granholm.
Yes, and now Snyder has continued that practice of raiding the school aid fund.
Not raiding it, using it according to the law. But you still don't want to talk about how it's gone up.
Again, loss of federal money. $500, that's a lot of money, though.
Yeah.
And is that a Democrat Obama's fault?
We lost a good chunk of federal revenue. You're right. And you know what the other states who lost that revenue did when the economy started recovering and that stimulus dollars went away? The other states put that money into education. Michigan used to be a top 10 state for education funding. We used to have great schools. Now our schools are performing poorly.
But they won't get away from the numbers.
We're at the bottom quartile.
They won't get away from the fact that they say he cut $1 billion and he increased it $1.2 billion.
Steve,
they won't talk about the truth.
These ads that are running right now, though, I mean, how much will that hurt Governor Snyder? And how serious are voters taking the subject of education right now?
Well, education is a very important subject. 20%, 2 out of 10 people, think that education is the most important issue facing the state of Michigan at this time. About 3 out of 10 women. Women are a key constituency in this election, and Republicans need to get them because they generally tend to vote for the Democrats. That's why they're so incensed about this ad, because they want to fight it. They want to get out there and throw a grenade saying that this is the debate you're hearing right here between Jeff Irwin and Pete Lund. This is the debate that goes on because Republicans need those women voters.
But how much does it hurt a candidate to say, that's a lie, pull that ad?
Well, I think that you have to do that as a candidate if you think that the ad is so egregious, and that's what the Republicans are doing.
So is it working?
Hard to say. The voters will make that determination in November. But, I mean, I've seen candidates go into court to try to fight ads. I've seen them go suing people because they've felt that they've been grieved by what's going on. So this is not something unusual, and you do it when you think that you've got a strong case.
What's the top issue in this campaign for the governor's race?
Jobs and economy.
So is education is kind of a couple...
It's actually number 2.
It is number 2.
But you got about half the voters saying that jobs and the economy is the most important issue. And then you've got, as I say, 2 out of 10 people, 1 out of 5.
Isn't it true, Jeff, that when Governor Snyder started, whatever the per pupil funding was per child going to school, that number is higher today than when he started?
It's barely higher in some districts, and it's not higher in other districts. What you got to do is you got to look at those numbers. The problem is the good chunk of the money that the Republicans are trying to count as going into schools has been put into shoring up the pension funds and trying to address the sins of our fathers.
That's education money. Just because previous administrations
it's not buying books, it's not paying teachers, it's not funding.
It's making sure teachers have retirement pensions when they retire. But again, then put an asterisk. When you run that ad, why aren't you putting that ad? Well, what we really mean is this. They say he cut $1 billion. That's a lie. And everybody who looks at the numbers knows outright it's a lie.
Not the TV stations who've looked into
the Free Press has called it a big and persistent lie.
But isn't it always? It seems like a bit of a shell game, though, and everything, all these commercials are misleading. People, like the ratings on TV, can spin them however they want. So you can find a little bit of truth here and a little bit of truth here and then put a commercial out there.
That's absolutely right.
So, Pete, here's your opportunity. Make up a counter ad to the Democratic ad that says Governor Snyder cut $1 billion from education. Go ahead. What would you say?
I think they put the ads out there. We don't need an ad. We need the truth.
What was the truth?
The truth is the governor increased spending from the state to the schools for education, K-12, $1.2 billion. Now, maybe they don't like that narrative because they want to talk about it. The truth is that under Jennifer Granholm, from her beginning to her end budget, education slashed $500 million. This governor added $1.2 billion.
If the Republicans throw out the name Jennifer Granholm, is that like poison in this election?
Actually, it is. It's amazing. Yeah. She remains very unpopular. She's got a favor of about 35%, which is basically the Democratic base vote thinks that she did a good job. So she remains surprisingly unpopular after 4 years being out of office.
And maybe we should try to bring up George W. Bush. But I'll tell you what, if Governor Snyder doesn't want to have an ad saying that he cut $1 billion from public education, he shouldn't have cut $1 billion from education.
He didn't.
That's the best thing he could have done to prevent
it. Again, it's the big and persistent lie, according to the Free Press.
If you're ready to go and tell those 6 teachers, and if Governor Snyder is ready to look those teachers in the eye and tell them that they're liars, I'll pay for a front row seat for that. In fact, maybe he could have a fundraiser and raise the $1 billion for restoring the public aid.
What's short? Do you admit that it was $10.8 billion under the governor's
I'll admit
Governor
that you have to parse your words very, very carefully to say state funding and
that's what you accuse him of. You accuse him of cutting state funding by $1 billion.
We can go round and round about this one.
If we just look at money to the classroom, forget the pensions, forget the administrative, money to the classroom, would that number be lower than when Governor Snyder started?
Wait. If you mean because the fact that the Shower Granholm people weren't properly funding the pensions?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because so your problem is that the governor is actually shoring up the pensions to help these teachers.
Correct.
So when they retire, they have pensions. I don't know all the funding. All I know, and I don't. I'm sorry. We can get somebody on there. But the truth of the matter is that's not what they say. Again, there's no asterisk. There's no footnote. They say the governor cut $1 billion in education funding. He increased it by $1.2 billion. Period.
If you want to answer your per pupil funding question, this is it. If you look at the per pupil funding in your district, it's about on par with what it was in 2004 or 2006. And if you want to talk about Michigan's lost decade, that's it. Because we know that if we want to attract businesses, we know if we want economic development in those jobs, we got to have great schools. That's where businesses want to locate.
Absolutely.
And right now, our schools are not a top priority in state government. Tax cuts for corporations, taking care of Rick Snyder's friends, is his top priority.
Education is not just about spending.
There you go.
We have to do a lot more than just spend an extra $1.2 billion.
Well, let's bring Steve right in real quickly, though. Gary Peters, Terry Lynn Land. Gary Peters all of a sudden seemed to have a spike in the polls right now.
Yeah, he really did. We showed him moving from 2% lead to 13% lead in a period of about 2.5 weeks. So that is a really big increase. He seems to be in a strong position at this point.
Can Terry Lynn Land win this election, Steve Mitchell?
Absolutely. I mean, there's still a month to go.
Can Mark Schauer win the election?
I think Shower's got more of a difficulty because Terry Lynn Land, in some ways, is impacted by federal issues and things that are out of her control.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, panel. All right, that's it for this edition of Let It Rip Weekend.